Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast. The Bundesliga is back and I'm your host Manuel Feth, and I'm as always joined by Stefan Piankowski. And Stefan, it's back, it's coming back. I'm so excited. We're just like 24 hours away, time of the recording for the Bundesliga to kick off at the Deutsche Bank Arena, Frankfurt against Bayern. Very exciting.
Very excited indeed. It's been fun covering the transfer stuff. Obviously, that's our job, but nothing beats just getting the football in, watching the football. So yeah. I can't wait. I mean, maybe not as excited about the opening game just because I don't think it's going to be much of a contest, but I'm very excited.
I think it might be.
Well, should we just get straight into it then?
Yeah, well, after this break, and then we're going to straight get into it. But yes. This episode of the Gegenpressing podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that is BLEAV50, BELIEVE50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on our first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Yeah, I guess this is right away where we're going to have maybe some contentious discussion there, Stefan. The first game is Frankfurt against Bayern. That's the Bundesliga opener. As you know from last year's edition, when we did these prediction shows, we picked a game each for our match of the week. We both picked another game, but this is obviously the opener. So I guess we have to talk a little bit about it. And I actually have this down as Bayern Munich dropping points, Frankfurt 2, Bayern 2. And here's why, because that's what Bayern do in Frankfurt. It's tradition. And then another aspect is that, yes, 2 years ago, they smashed Schalke to open the Bundesliga 8-0. But last year, they dropped points against Hoffenheim. And traditionally, Bayern actually don't do well at the season opener, which makes me think this is a perfect occasion for Frankfurt to do hit them and take points off them. So yes, I have this down as a 2-2 draw.
Interesting. I have the opposite opinion. I think Frankfurt look a little wobbly at the moment. I don't think they've really improved dramatically in the transfer window. Filip Kostic now looks certain to be leaving. There's rumours today that he's signed a contract with Juventus. And I mean, that might come out by the time people listen to this. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's nothing. You never know. But I just think there's too much noise at Frankfurt. I think they'll be okay over the course of the season because I think Glasner's a very good coach. But I just don't know if they're in great shape right now. And their key player is winking at Juventus. Or as they say in Germany, Juventus Turin. But on the whole, I just and after that Super Cup, wow, I think Bayern are going to absolutely blow them away. So I've got 3-0 Bayern.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see who's right. And I think it's going, hopefully it's going to be an exciting start to the season. But then we're treated on Saturday to this. I personally thought it was a little odd that they scheduled it that way. Curious what you think, because this is your match of the week, right? Union Berlin against Hertha Berlin, the Berlin derby, which is a big fixture in the calendar. So usually you kind of want that smacked in the middle somewhere. not at the start. What's your thoughts on this, and how do you think it's going to end?
Um, I don't think it really matters when you play this game, to be honest with you. I think at the end of the day, it's a big game in the calendar. It's a lot of fun. Um, and I think the really interesting thing is that obviously both teams have had kind of ups and down transfer windows. I think Union Berlin
Mm.
look in much better shape. Um, Obviously, they've been the better team for quite some time now in Berlin. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, saying they're now officially the bigger club based on members.
Mm.
Um, but I just think, Hertha were a bit of a car crash last season. I think they're probably still going to be a bit of a car crash this season.
Yes.
Um, and I think Union Berlin will probably continue to go from strength to strength, as we kind of said in our preview show on Wednesday for subscribers.
Mm.
I think they've actually recruited very well in the summer. So I've gone for a relatively I've gone for a 1-0 win for Union Berlin, so maybe not that comfortable, but I think they should be able to edge it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you say. I went for a more comfortable 3-1 victory, and because it's cruel, and that's what Hertha is to their own fans. I think Hertha's going to take the lead, and
Mm.
then it's just going to fall apart for them. Yeah, I echo everything you say, that Union look like the better team, the bigger team now. I mean, by membership they are, and I think we kind of really stressed that in our big preview podcast that we did midweek too, right? That this is now the case. Union is Berlin's club now, and Hertha is the number 2. So, but yeah, it should be a really interesting fixture. I think it's the definitely the Saturday game, mid Saturday game to watch, and a game where wherever you are, if you're in Europe, of course, easy. If you're in the East Coast, 9:30, West Coast, 6:30 a.m. Hooray! So yeah, big match. Up next is Gladbach against Hoffenheim. I have this as a 1-1 draw. How about you?
I also have as a 1-1 draw.
Hmm.
I'll explain why. I feel like both these teams haven't had great summer windows.
Mhm.
Um, Even though I think Hoffenheim obviously had a better season last year, they finished it very poorly.
Yeah.
And even though I think Gladbach maybe they certainly did stable the ship because they didn't end up getting dragged into a relegation race. I still think there's a lot of problems in that club.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen a few big players move on. Ginter left, Mbolo's left. Um, and add to that a new head coach in place who I'm not entirely sure really knows. Well, I'm sure he knows what he's got himself in for, but it's an almighty task.
Mhm.
And in typical Gladbach fashion, they have the players to maybe perform, but they also have 2 or 3 players who could leave by this time next week. So I think they're in all sorts of a mess in the minute. And I don't think Hoffenheim have really recovered from a terrible end to the season and also losing some players themselves. So I think these are two teams that will struggle this season. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think totally agree with everything you say. It's a little bit of one of those games too where I thought, okay, well, this we just don't know where they are, and I think even they themselves don't know where they are. So
Hmm.
this kind of result makes sense. Up next is Wolfsburg against Werder, and because I picked Wolfsburg as my underdog to watch this year, and I'm very quite confident that they are going to come out of the gates really well. I think this is going to be an easy 3-0 victory against the Werder Bremen side that's going to struggle to find their footing in the Bundesliga. Well, how about you?
No, again, completely agree. I've gone for a very comfortable 2-0 win for Wolfsburg
Mm.
here. I really feel like they've kind of got their shit together, for lack of a better expression.
Yeah.
They've got a fantastic head coach. I think Niko Kovac. If he's not fantastic, he at least knows the Bundesliga. He knows how to get a team
Mm.
into the top 6. And I actually think they've picked up some really impressive signings this summer. I'm really excited to see what Kaminski can do. I'm really interested to see what Patrick Wimmer can do in a better side. I thought he was really good last year. And they obviously had, and they already had a very impressive squad to begin with. They just needed the right head coach in there to get things going well. So, I totally agree with you. I think Wolfsburg will be quite good this season. So I've gone for a 2-0 win as well.
And American listeners will probably also look forward to what Kevin Paredes can do, who they signed for, I think, $7 million last winter with an eye
Mm.
for this season. So Niko Kovac tasked with getting the best out of him. So we'll see if he features, how much he features this year. Next is Bochum against Mainz. And we are both not very hot on Bochum, but we also both know that Mainz cannot win on the road. Or was it the other way around? I can't remember. But I have this as a 1-1 draw as a result of
I
their
I
not
also have
good.
it as a 1-1 draw.
Oh, there we go. Easy.
I completely agree. I'm still not sure what to expect of Mainz. I
Yeah.
did, listeners or readers actually of the Substack will know that I actually spoke to Bo Svensson in the summer break, and I asked him specifically about this Jekyll and Hyde form, and he gave some interesting answers, but which were in the newsletter. But I think that kind of Jekyll and Hyde form, tongue twister there, where they were very good on the road and quite poor at home. I think, or was it the other way around? I think it was the other way around. Actually, they're good at home and bad away.
Yes, that's how it was.
I don't expect that to be the case this season, because Svensson was basically suggesting that it came down to a number of things like COVID, a lack of fans in the club, the players having to get used to that all over again. So I think we'll probably see a more stable Mainz side, but at the same time, I think they've had a tricky summer as well. I think they'll be rebuilding this summer or this season, and Bochum should be able to take a point, I think.
Yeah. I think, as you said, we both agree. Up next, Augsburg against Freiburg. And I have this as a 2-1 Freiburg win. I really like what Freiburg have done in the summer. Yes, they lost Nico Schlotterbeck, but bring in Matthias Ginter. Rizzo comes in. And other than that, they keep their squad very much together. And I think this is a game that they're going, I think, even though I said 2-1, I think this is going to a game they're comfortably going to win.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've gone for a 1-0 win for Freiburg. I think I can't really add too much more than what you said. I think Freiburg should be quite good this season. They should be fine. I think Augsburg will continue to struggle. So yeah, 1-0 win.
Then my top spiel, which is also the top spiel, Dortmund against Leverkusen. And I had some struggles with my prediction here. Went at the end with a 3-2 Dortmund win, but I do think this could also very much go the other way. I think both teams, Dortmund, do have the whole Sebastian Haller thing to deal with, the fact that he was diagnosed with testicle cancer, right, and will be out for several months. That said, I think they look quite good in the Pokal. They attack with the 3-man up front is going to be very interesting, and I think almost a little bit the same approach than Bayern Munich are going to have with Mane and Gnabry up front, right? Not with a real number 9, and that might actually work in their favor. Now, the reason why I'm struggling to select an easy winner here is because Leverkusen have also done a really good job in the transfer window this summer, mostly by keeping their best players and just adding the one, Adam Hlossek. Although there is Michailo Mudryk is still in talks with the club, and there is some movement now, so he might still join, which means 2 very good attacking players having joined the club, right? The thing with Leverkusen is, though, how heavy is that cup defeat going to weigh on them, right? Dortmund got the job done easily. Leverkusen did not. And we know from Leverkusen that they're a little bit fickle, and a negative result like that can hurt them. So that's why Dortmund, in my mind, is going to edge this game, but just.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because I've gone for a 3-2 win for Dortmund, and I've really just gone for that because I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and I think it's going to be a very intense game. I think I saw that ABC in the United States are actually showing this game for free on their main channel.
I know. It's good news, that.
Really, it's great news, because I don't think they could have picked a better game to showcase just how much fun the Bundesliga could be. Because this fixture almost always throws up all sorts of fireworks. There's so many excellent attacking players that'll be on the pitch, and even though my brain actually suggests that Leverkusen could actually steal this, just because I think Dortmund are still going to have to go into this game without a proven striker, in the sense that Makuku will probably have to start up front, which may end up being the difference maker between the two sides. And I actually think man for man, Leverkusen probably do match Dortmund these days, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
But Dortmund do seem to have a habit of picking up results in these games, or at least historically. And there's just something that makes me think, new head coach. There's a kind of, even though the Haller news was desperately disappointing, I still think there's a kind of good feel factor about the club this summer. They've brought in some other great players. There's still a bit of work that has to be done, obviously, bringing in a striker probably, but I think they probably should be able to steal an end. I think it's just good. Basically, my 3-2 prediction is me saying I think it'll be a very exciting game that Dortmund should just about edge it.
And we're both saying 3-2, so there's that. Yeah, next is Stuttgart against Leipzig. And I actually think this is going to be quite a good game too. Leipzig will, in my mind, rebound from their DFL Super Cup defeat to Bayern Munich. I think, and this is I think really important to note with this DFL Super Cup, very much a game of two halves, wasn't it? The 3-0, a 3-0 and a 3-2 in Leipzig's favor in the second half. I think that the second half was much more representative of where Leipzig are at, and still very much a team in transition, because they're not done by any stretch of the imagination with their transfer window. With Timo Werner still very much in talks with the club. Having said that, they have some sort of certainty now that Konrad Leimer is with 90% possibility of staying now, which is great news. David Raum is there, and I think that on balance, I think they're just way better quality than Stuttgart. And I think they're going to win this game 3-1.
Yeah, I'm expecting a bit more from Stuttgart this season, just because they haven't sold Borna Sosa or Kaladzic yet. They may still do, but it looks like they're probably going to keep them. So I do kind of think they might be okay. I think they'll still be able to maybe get a goal against Leipzig, but I completely agree with you. I think the Leipzig we'll see this season is probably the one that came on in the second half against Bayern. I'd be very surprised if, for example, Forsberg started up front. I think we should see Donit Diomo. I think we'll see Andre Silva up front with Nkunku. And if I'm not mistaken, they should be able to welcome some players back. Guardiol's still out, but they still have, obviously, as you said, David Raum on the left wing back, which will make a big difference. So I think Leipzig should have enough to beat Stuttgart. So I've gone for a 2-1 win for Leipzig.
Yeah, pretty close again. The final game then, and we're almost through this, lightning speed today, Köln against Schalke. This is actually, on paper, two of the most traditional clubs playing against each other. It's a nice way to round up the Sunday. And I think it's actually going to be quite a fascinating game, seeing Schalke back in the Bundesliga and how they're going to approach it after 2 very difficult years, right? First, a disastrous campaign in the Bundesliga. As we mentioned on top of the pod, they lost that very campaign. They lost the very first game 8-0 to Bayern, and it didn't get much better for the rest of the season. Against the Köln side that has been very much resurgent over the last few years and will be in the Europe Conference League this year. So I actually think Köln, obviously the favorite, and I think Köln are going to win this 2-0.
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-0 win. I think Cologne should have enough to beat them. They are the better team. They're now an established Bundesliga side, of course, and I think they were also quite good at home last season as well.
Yeah.
But then the tricky thing with Cologne last season was that they weren't very good at seeing out games. Even though they did very well in the end in the league, their goal difference was very narrow in most matches. So I don't expect them to really blow Schalke away. And more than anything else, it's just so nice to see that fixture back on the Bundesliga fixture list. Maybe Dortmund fans don't agree with me, but I just love having Schalke back in the top flight. They're such a huge club.
So I have to let's be honest here. Dortmund fans secretly agree.
They missed them. Of course, they missed them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bayern fans always tell me that they don't want 1860 back in the Bundesliga. Give me a break. Of course you do. It's a derby.
They want
Everyone loves
Nuremberg.
the derby.
They want
Yeah.
Nuremberg back. Of course. Well, they don't have to worry about it because they've got Augsburg, who are the second biggest team in Bavaria, so it's fine.
Okay.
You're not biting.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, anyone who's saying they don't want everyone wants their rival to go down because it's kind of, you can make fun of them, but then you actually kind of quickly want them back, right? Because you do want to play them. That's my point.
No, of course. It's great to have Schalke back in the division. They're going to make such a big difference, but on the pitch, I'm not expecting a huge amount from them. I think they should be okay to avoid relegation, but away to Cologne is exactly the kind of games I think is probably a little too much for them right now.
Yeah. I think Schalke is actually going to be a really fascinating story this year to watch.
Yeah, and do you know what? We kind of talked about this on our preview pod, but I actually referenced Cologne as a perfect example that Schalke should look to emulate, in the sense that, a team that got promoted, a bit of a yo-yo side in recent decades, but they've now really properly established themselves in the Bundesliga, much like Union Berlin as well, actually. And those are the kind of clubs that Schalke should be looking at to try and copy to get back on their feet in the top flight.
And it might take, and I mean, all of this is true for Werder Bremen too, but it might take one of those clubs to get relegated one more time before the pain really ends.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Köln, right? Köln, when they went down, they didn't stay up right away. They had to go through a relegation again. And I think this might be the sort of process that both Werder and Schalke might have to go through too. It's going to be a bit painful.
Which is still better than Hamburg, who are still going through that pain.
They're going through all sorts of hell after being the dinosaur. They're soon going to turn into a second division dinosaur. The way things are going,
they're going to be a fossil at this rate.
The clock is in the museum, so at least Hamburg are not yet. That rounds up the podcast for this week. Bundesliga is back. As always, the show is brought to you by Bet Online, and once again, leave us a review on this show. The two shows or regular podcast will still be available for free on wherever you listen to your podcast. And then, of course, we have our Substack where you get the specials, including the big preview podcast that we did midweek, where we go through every single club. So if you want to listen to that, subscribe to our Substack. It will be on there, including some really other cool content. I did an 18 Thoughts newsletter this week, where I also went through every single club and some of the news that you have to look out for ahead of Matchday 1. So give that a read. And Stefan, you did something on Julian Draxler, which I thought was a really interesting read as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we've been saying that to each other since we set up the Substack. It's just a nice place for us to kind of write pieces that we usually can't do for the bigger publications that we work for. And I think people enjoy it as well. At the end of the day, it's just a Bundesliga blog. It's like an old-fashioned blog, which you don't really see that often anymore. I guess they are quite common now. They've just been repackaged, and we all call them newsletters now. But yeah, that's the spirit of it, and we've had some great support so far. So we're having a lot of fun with it.
And the interaction has been great too. So thank you for that. Enjoy match day 1. I think we're all looking forward to it. It's like Christmas come early. So until next week, auf Wiedersehen.
Ende in Sicht.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.